Chapter 14. And it came to pass in the days of Amphraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Kedor Laomar, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goim, that they made war with Berah, king of Sodom, and with Bershah, king of Gomorrah, Shenab, king of Admah, and Shemeber, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, the same is Zoar. All these came as allies unto the vale of Siddim, the same as the Salt Sea. 12 years they served Kedor Laomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. And in the 14th year came Kedor Laomer, and the kings that were with him, and smote the Rephaim in Ashtaroth Karnaim, and the Zutzim in Ham, and the Amim in Shavah Kiriathaim, and the Horites in their mount Seir, unto El Paran, which is by the wilderness. And they turned back, and came to En Mishpat, the same as Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites, and dwelt in Hatzatzon Tamar. And there went out the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, the same as Zoar. And they set the battle in array against them in the vale of Siddim, against Kedar Laomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, the king of Goim, and Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elasar, 4 kings against the 5. Now the vale of Siddim was full of slime pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, and they fell there, and they that remained fled to the mountain. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all their victuals, and they went their way. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. And there came one that had escaped, and told Abram the Hebrew. Now he dwelt by the terebinths of Mamre the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, and brother of Aner, and these were confederate with Abram. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he led forth his trained men born in his house, 318, and pursued as far as Dan. And he divided himself against them by night, he and his servants, and smote them, and persuaded them unto Hobah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. And he brought back all the goods, and also brought back his brother Lot, and his goods, and the women also, and the people. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him, after his return from the slaughter of Kedor Laomer, and the kings that were with him, at the vale of Shavah, the same as the king's vale. And Melchizedek, king of Shalom, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of God the Most High. And he blessed him, and said, Blessed be Abram of God Most High, maker of heaven and earth, and blessed be God the Most High, who hath delivered your enemies into your hand. And he gave him 1/10 of all. And the king of Sodom said unto Abram, Give me the persons, and take the goods to yourself. And Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up my hand unto the Lord, God Most High, maker of heaven and earth, that I will not take a thread, nor a shoe latchet, nor aught that is yours, lest you should say, I have made Abram rich, save only that which the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men which went with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre, let them take their portion. All right, let's go back up to verse 1. Now, we're going to continue with the story of Abram, and we'll see Lot's involved as well. Yesterday, they had come up out of Egypt, out of that place of snares and traps, and had returned back to where they had settled the first time, and finally Abram had moved his tent. Him and Lot had divided their ways after their herdsmen had a little trouble. Lot went to the east of the Jordan, and Abram went to the west. And Abram set his tent here, we'll find out, and by these terebinths that belong to Mamre. Mamre's going to be the strength or the vigor, and these terebinths are going to be these mighty trees that are raised up, which are in Hebron. Hebron, that's that place of the association, or where they're joined together. We're going to pick it up here in verse 1, and it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, the king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Shedar Laamar, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goim. So it's going to come to pass, and this is going to be written in hindsight after it's all over. This was in the days of Amraphel, who was the king of Shinar. Amraphel is these nations rise and fall. We can look at it right like that. The nations rise and fall. He was the king of Shinar. Shinar is that place of two rivers, where the rivers were divided in the first place. And Arioch, he's the king of Elasar. A king is the one who rules the Molech or the Malach of Elasar. And Elasar means the mighty one. He is the punisher. Kedar Laomer, king of Elam, and Kedar Laomer is a handful of measure. He is the Molech of Elam, or that one of eternity, and Tidal, the king of the Goim. And Tidal is the fearful, this one that makes afraid. He is the Molech of the Goim, and the Goim are always going to refer to the heathen nations or all the other nations. 2. They that made war with Barah, king of Sodom, and with Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, Shemeber, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, the same as Zoar. So they're going to go down and they're going to pick a fight with, we're going to find out why. So they make war with Barah. Barah is the evil son. He is the king of Sodom. Sodom is that place that's burnt, that place that's destroyed by fire. And him, and with Bersha, he was the king of Gomorrah. Bersha is with wickedness, and he is the king of Gomorrah. Gomorrah is that place that was submerged, or that place that was totally covered up. Shinab, he's the king of Admah. Shinab means changed of the father. He's the king of the earthy. That's the Admah. That's Admah. And Shemeber, king of Zeboim. Shemeber is the name of the illustrious, or this illustrious name we're going to find out. He is the Molech of the Zeboim, or the Zeboim is a plural for the gazelles, or those that go swiftly or move swiftly. And the king of Bela, the king of Bela here, Bela is destruction. It's the same as Zoar. Zoar is insignificant. It's not very much. It don't matter anyway. 3. All these came as allies unto the Vale of Siddim, the same as the Salt Sea. All of them they ally together. They join together. They're going to fight together. They have associated themselves together. They're going to go down to fight in this vale. A vale is going to be a valley, not just a valley that's like a crack, but more like a valley that's got a wide base to the bottom of it. And this one is of Siddim. Siddim means that flat or that spread out place. It's a plain in the bottom of a valley. The same is the Salt Sea. And we get the same is the Salt Sea because it's going to be that, probably the lower end of it. 4. 12 years they served Kedar Laomer, and the 13th year they rebelled. So 12 years, 10 and 2, now the law's witnessed. They served Kedar Laomar. And that's that handful of measure. That's that hand. And 10 and 2, 12 is understanding. They serve this handful of measure, and in the 13th year, the law is going to be complete. In the greater understandings is when they rebelled. 5. And in the 14th year came Kedar Laomar, the kings that were with him, and smote the Rephaim in Ashtaroth, Karnaim, and the Zutim in Kam, the Emim in Sheba Kiriathaim, and 6, and the Horites in Mount Seir unto El Paran, which is by the wilderness. So now in the 14th year, that's 10 and 4, the law is the work of God. We'll find out in the greater understandings. In all of it, we'll see as we draw these parallels in this story with the parallels of all the other stories, even the parallels of today we'll find. Kedar Laomar and the kings that were with him, all these ones that were associated with him, they come down and smote the Rephaim. The Rephaim here, I know it's been translated giants, but the Rephaim is simply those that have fallen short, those that come up short. The giants, I guess, they have fallen. They've come down. They've come up short, and they're still alive in Ashtaroth, Karnaim. Ashtaroth is this the place of two horns. We'll get these double strengths, and the Zutzim in Cham. The Zutzim or the Zutzi are these mini beasts. In Cham, Cham is those that are prepared, those that are heated, those that are warmed up, being made ready. And the Emim in Sheba Kiriathaim, and the Emim are the terrors. Sheba Kiriathaim is the plain of cities, and that plain of cities, that's those places that have a guard. And the Horites in Mount Seir, the Horites are those that of the caves, those that dwell in the dark places. We can look at it like that. And below, those that dwell below Seir, that's that shaggy mountain of thorns. They've chased him as far as to El Paran. El Paran is the mighty one of ornamentation even, which is by the wilderness. The wilderness is always going to be that place where the words drive out. And they turned back and came to En-Mishpat, the same as Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites that dwelt in Hatzatzon Tamar. And they turned back and came to En-Mishpat, and as they found, Mishpat is the law. It's basically just the law or a rule or a set ordinance, statute. We can look at it like at an instruction. This fountain of instructions even, and the same as Kadesh. Kadesh is the sanctuary itself, and smote all the country of the Amalekites. The Amalekites are those that lap, or those that lap up, and we're going to find they always prey on the weak, the poor, the sick, the old, and the suffering. And also the Amori. The Amori are the sayers. These that speak, they comfortable words. And they dwelt in Hatzatzon Tamar. Hatzatzon Tamar is that place where they're chopping the palm tree, or that which is correct. 8. And there went out the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, the same as Zoar, and they set the battle in array against them in the vale of Siddim. And there they go. They went out, all these Molechs together, the one of Sodom and Gomorrah, this one of Admah, the one of Zeboim and Bela, same as Zoar. They all went down. They set the battle in array, and in those days they would line them up and get ready to fight. and this was down in the valley of Siddim. And that's that spread out place, flat place. They had picked a good place to fight. 9, against Kedar Laamar, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goim, and Aprophel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elasar, 4 kings against the 5. So they all set themselves in array with the king of Kedar Laomar, this king of Elam. That's that handful of measure for eternity. Tidal, he was the fearful, or those that make afraid of all the other nations. Amraphel was the nations that rise and fall. He's the king of Shinar, that place where the rivers split, or the place of 2 rivers. Arioch, he's the king of Elasar. Arioch, this is one that's lion-like. He's the king over Elasar. The mighty one is the punisher. 4 kings, that's the work of God. Against these 5, it's going to be grace. We'll see at the end of the story. 10. Now the vale of Siddim was full of slime pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, and they fell there, and they that remained fled to the mountain. Now the valley of Siddim was full of slime pits. Slime pits are these places of where the tar just boils up naturally. Probably still there today. The kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled. They took off running. Don't figure. And they fell there. They went down. This is where they was beaten at. They that remained fled to the mountains. So all those that was left over fled to the high places, the mountain. 11. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all the victuals and went their way. So these kings that had come up to wage the war, they take everything that's good, all the victuals, it's all the food, everything they need from that place. Sodom and Gomorrah, that place that was burnt and buried. And they leave. 12. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. And they took Lot. Lot is the veil, that's that covering. That's Abraham's brother's son, or this understanding that comes from. Abram is the exalted father who dwelt in Sodom, and that's where Lot dwelt, not Abraham. But Lot dwelt in Sodom. That's that burnt place, or that place that was destroyed. And they took Lot and everything he had, and they left. 13. And there came one that had escaped and told Abram, the Hebrew. Now he dwelt by the terebinths of Mamre, the Amoree, brother of Eshcol and brother of Aner, and these were confederate with Abram. There came one that had escaped from the battle, and he told Abram, the exalted father, the Hebrew, this is the one from beyond. Now he dwelt by the trees, these giant trees, or these oaks, these well-planted things of Mamre, or strength and vigor. He is the Amoree, or the Sayer, one of the Sayers, and he is a brother of the same understanding as Eshcol. That's like a bunch or a cluster. The brother of the same understanding as Aner. Aner means youths, and these were confederate with Abram. 14. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he led forth his trained men, born in his house, 318, and pursued as far as Dan. And when Abram heard they had taken Lot, took him captive, he led forth his trained men. This word trained here is more like these ones that was under him, that he had give a little bit of instruction to. He was born in his house. They basically worked for him. 318, and they pursued as far as Dan. 300, because we're going to witness judgment. 18, because that's 10 and 8. Law's going to have a new beginning. And they pursued as far as Dan, which is the judge. 8:15, and he divided himself against them by night, he and his servants, and smote them and pursued them by Hobah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. And he divides himself against them, splits up by night, and that's in the darkness. He and his servants, that's basically those that was working for him, and they smote them, pursued them unto Kovah. That's that hidden place, which is on the left hand of Damascus. Left is witness the work, or we can see the support in that, because Damascus is that place where the sackcloth weaver works silently. 16, and that's where the morning's being prepared. At 16, and he brought back all the goods, and also brought back his brother Lot, and his goods, and the women also, and the people. So he brings everything back, all the goods. They was able to go out and have a great victory over these Molechs, and also brought back his brother Lot, the one, same understanding, that one, the veil, or the covering, that which is going to be hidden, and the women also, and all the people. 17, the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Kedar Laomer, and the kings that were with him at the vale of Shavah. The same is the king's vale. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him. Who's him? That's going to be Abram. He went out to meet Abram after his return from the slaughter of Kedar Laomer. And that's because he just went out and whipped the kings. We'll find out the slaughter of Kedar Laomer. That's that handful of measure. That's a little bit of judgment there is what it was. And that all those that were with him being Abram. And the vale of Shavah, at the vale of Shavah, that Shavah is this plain. That's that plain, the vale, and the vale. That's at the bottom of the valley in that wide place that was spread out. They came there to meet him. The same is the king's vale, the vale of the Molechs, 18. And Melchizedek, king of Shalem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of God the Most High. And Melchizedek, the king of Shalem, brought forth bread and wine. So Melchizedek comes out to meet Abram as well. Melchizedek means the king of the just, king of the right, and we're going to find out he is the king of Shalem. He is the king of peace, which is later going to become Jerusalem, and we're going to start drawing parallels. They brought forth bread and wine, that which would be consumed. The wine gives off the effects, the effervescence, and he was the priest of God the Most High. We'll find out he was a priest as well, not only the king, but the priest as well. 19, and he blessed him and said, "Blessed be Abram of God Most High, maker of heaven and earth." And he, Melchizedek, blessed him, Abram, and said, "Blessed be Abram of God Most High." And he blessed Abram because he was blessed of God. It was obvious that he went out. These four had just whipped the five, and then just a few went forth and had brought a great victory. He is the maker of heaven and earth, and that's this one they're calling God the Most High, the mighty one, these powers, these strengths, and there was nothing new about it because Shalem, this understanding was already in the earth when Noah had it, and Shem had understanding. Japheth, there was nothing hidden. All had that understanding. But we'll find out they'd already raised him up some kings, and God got to this ability here where even the king was the priest himself. 20. And blessed be God the Most High, who hath delivered your enemies into your hand, and he gave him 1/10 of all. And blessed be God the Most High, because we'll find out the powers and the might of the strength of all that is the presence of the Lord himself. And he has delivered your enemies into your works. And Melchizedek, gave him, Abram, 1/10 of all. A tenth is just a portion, a reward, you might say. 21. And the king of Sodom said unto Abram, Give me the persons, and take the goods to yourself. Now the king of Sodom had a little different understanding. He's from the burnt place, this place that's not been burnt yet. I have lifted up my hand unto the Lord. Abram tells him, I've lifted up my works to the Lord. I've done this for what's right, what's good, what's correct. God the Most High, the maker of heaven and earth. Abram said, I didn't do this for you, basically. 23. And I've swore unto the Lord, 23, that I will not take a thread, nor a shoe latchet, nor aught that is yours, lest you should say, I've made Abram rich. And Abram told him that he wasn't going to take nothing from him, lest he should boast himself and say he give Abraham his start, so to speak. 24. Save only that which the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men which went with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre. Let them take their portion. Except only now, this portion the young men have already eaten, that which they've already taken of. That portion, and the portion of the men which went with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre. Aner is the youth, this Eshcol is a bunch, and Mamre, strength and vigor. So he just had a bunch of kids with him that was ready to fight. Let them take their portion. We're going to move forward. Genesis 15. Turn and return.